Ova epizoda Ideja.hr snima se u Strasbourgu u Europskom parlamentu. Razgovaramo o budućnosti Europe u novim okolnostima pod pritiskom Putina, Trumpa, ali i ostalih velikih svjetskih igrača. Naš gost je Helmut Brandtstätter, zastupnik austrijske liberalne stranke NEOS, inače i novinar sa dugogodišnjim iskustvom uredničkim u nekim od ključnih trenutaka za Europu.
And now we have a president who says Europe was founded, the EU was founded to screw the United States. First of all, it's not a nice word to use. Secondly, it's complete, may I say bullshit? No, it's completely wrong. It's completely wrong. Thomas Jefferson, third president of the United States, he once said, if you ask me to live in a country with media and no government, or government and no media, I would take the first. So, media is probably more important than government. No, it's not television and newspaper, it's the person. And I think every good journalist should be also an influencer. If you think about Marine Le Pen, you know, if I have to steal money first to be popular, I will not do it, okay? Because that's not my way of being a politician. For her it works. Many people are in favor of the European Union. If you explain it to them, they say, of course, better export, open borders, that's good for us, you know, and we sell our things and tourists are coming. But that's all here. We have to be more here.
Mr. Brandtstätter, welcome today.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
You also wrote a book about the situation in which Europe is right now, squeezed, if I can say it like that, between Putin and Trump.
Yeah. You know, you can see that I'm not the youngest anymore. I'm a rather young politician because most of my life I was a journalist. But in 2019 I came into the Austrian parliament and 2024 here. What I always say is that people like me, we are the luckiest generation that ever grew up in a country like Austria. Because when I was born, we were not only at the end of the war, but also we got the States Treaty, and Austria was finally free. And everything was getting better and better. And even as a journalist, I was in Germany. I saw the divided Germany. Afterwards, in '89, I was with Helmut Kohl in Warsaw when the wall opened. And then, we thought it was the end of history, as Fukuyama wrote. And we thought, okay, freedom all over Europe, the common house of Europe. And as we know, it's not that anymore. And the more I thought about it, and especially here in the European Parliament, of course, there's a difference between Putin and Trump. Trump is elected, democratically elected, no doubt about that. And Putin is a dictator, no doubt about that. But the puppets, I'm writing about the puppets, marionete in German, they have the same puppets, especially the right-wing parties here. They love Trump because he's anti-woke and he's authoritarian and things like that. And Putin, they like Putin because he's authoritarian, and both are a danger for Europe. And that's so important for me. Both are a danger for Europe, and then here we have parties who support politicians who are a danger for Europe. And we got to talk about that.
Talking about this danger, how it occurs?
How it occurs. I always talk about the pincer attack. We have the Americans, it's just one example, the pincer attack in the social media. We have the Americans, with Twitter, X, which is now Facebook and others, so they are the platforms. But what do we see? We see a lot of Russian disinformation influence. So they use our free and liberal system that everybody can write what he or she wants, but they misuse it because they take it for their Putin, for their troll fabrics, which we know that there is not only in St. Petersburg. We had an expert from Africa. We know that they're also sitting in Africa, part of the Wagner Group, out of Africa. They are working also against us. So, American platform, Russian disinformation, and more also American disinformation. And I think that's very dangerous for Europe. But of course, with Trump, there are more things. When he says he doesn't like NATO anymore, when he said we should have supported him in Iran, he started the war. And then afterwards the Europeans should help him. Or also the tariffs. I mean, we know that the Americans need us and we need them. And that's also in my history, Austria was really very, very happy that the people, we had the Marshall Plan as well as of 47, which was different, as we know, in the Eastern European countries. My journalistic teachers, some of them had studied in America what it means, the free press. So I studied at 2 American universities. So they were our friends. And now we have a president who says Europe was founded, the EU was founded to screw the United States. First of all, it's not a nice word to use. Secondly, it's complete, may I say bullshit? No, it's completely wrong. It's completely wrong. Europe and America, they were working together, as we know. And until Trump, we were working together quite well. But it's over.
That's my next question. Is it over forever? Many experts think that relations are so dramatically changed that we cannot rely on long term on old school relations with the United States, no matter who will be next president.
I think it's more complicated. On the one hand, we had a trip from the EUDS Democracy Shield. We have here the Committee for the Democracy Shield, and we did, I think, a really good work. And so one of the visits was in the United States, and we were in Washington and talked to people from the FBI and from the DOJ, from the Department of Justice. And there we saw great cooperation. They explained to us, as far as money laundering, as far as terrorism, as far as big crime is concerned, we need you and you need us. And it was very clear. So on the level of people working every day with each other, it's clear. We've been in Germany, Rammstein, it's American base. People explained to us, yes, they work together, it works. So it still works, I would say. Not in politics, because Trump doesn't want it, but those people who have to work together, they still do it. But that's your point. What if that continues? What is J.D. Vance is the next one? Then it really might fall apart. And it's bad for America, but it's dangerous for us. I think this is the difference. It's bad for America, but dangerous for us. So that's why what do we have to do? And that's also something I'm working on. Technological independence. We are dependent heavily on the United States, I wrote a letter to President Metzola, President of the European Parliament, and I said, I'm using now US American hardware, software. What I'm writing you is going to an American cloud. I want to change this, starting with the Parliament. And immediately there were other colleagues following me. We had a conversation with the President, and now we are already looking for a European cloud for a European Parliament. First step. So Trump was a wake-up call also, and we heard the wake-up call, and we do something.
Talking about dependence, also big issue is the issue of big tech companies and their influence also in this story of manipulation, disinformation, especially on social media. Did Europe lost that war already?
We are in a difficult situation. And of course, everybody can say, why didn't you understand it earlier? Look at Peter Thiel, who's one of the so-called tech bros. He wrote already, if I remember right, in 2009, he doesn't believe in democracy. He even wrote he doesn't believe in, free trade, because he thinks if there's a monopoly, the monopoly could get stronger, especially if it's his monopoly, So we should have understood it earlier. If you see the platforms, social media platforms, Americans strong, Chinese strong, Europe very weak. So are we late? Yes. Are we very late? Yes. But we understood it now, so we do something. And I think especially hardware, software, cloud, we are doing something and we're improving it. And on the other hand, the Americans, they will realize they need us. And we realize it. There was lately a fine against Google. There was a fine against Musk. They know they have to pay it. They know that they need us as well. But we have to appear much stronger. We were too nice with them.
Are you afraid personally of Peter Thiel and his vision of dark enlightenment and his friend Alex Karp?
That's strange, isn't it? I mean, if you really listen to him, you think, what kind? Does he want to be a priest? Does he want to be like the king of the world, or the god of the world, or whatever? So I'm not afraid of him personally, but I think it's very strange. But we have to see what's behind that. We have to see that they want our data. That's something which people still haven't realized. They want our data and make money with it. Musk wants our data and make money with it. And they support Trump in order that he oppresses us. So, like Jeff Bezos, he was a Democrat. Musk, he was a Democrat. They supported Democrats before. And of course, for us, for us Europeans, it's always strange to see that rich people give like endless millions to certain candidates, because we wouldn't do that here, and I think it's not fair. But we don't have to be afraid of them, but we have to understand them. And that's what I'm really working on. People try to understand them, and then you will understand when we have the conscience. Then we will understand that we have to do something.
And where are European media in that story right now? You have been with a public broadcaster in Österreich. You have been working for private, private news 24/7 news channel. So you have inside experience. Do you think that the media are dying?
Also an Austrian newspaper, and when I came there in 2010, I knew we have to do the same job with less people, which is horrible, to lose journalists. But as a matter of fact, because if you don't do it at the end, you go bankrupt. So where are we standing? First of all, there is no really European media. I wrote long ago that there is no European media. Then they tried to build up the European. Was it successful? No. The funny thing, by the way, is the Brits have left the European Union, but here walking around you only speak English. Most people speak English. So, and there is a great Austrian journalist born in Hungary, Paul Lendwey, he always says there's one common language in Europe. It's bad English. So we all speak English. So it's more or less the common language. Young people speak English. So it's necessary to build up European media, and there are a lot of people trying to do that. But the really dangerous thing is, again, and we come back to the platforms, it's already, I know it from Austria, I think in other countries will be similar. More than 50% of the advertisement money goes not to Austrian media, goes to American platforms. That's the point. So can we do taxes? Yes, it is one possibility. Do we have to support our media? Yes. That's dangerous, because then, the state wants to decide what are you saying. No, I don't want to decide what you are saying, but I want you and your people to survive. And that is something which we are really discussing on a broad level here already. Even Ursula von der Leyen said we have to support European media and we have to fight disinformation, both at the same time. Then we have to do everything that European media survive, because otherwise no media, no democracy. Obvious source for that financing would be some kind of taxing social media platforms. But do you think that the answer is not to support media, but to support journalists if you want not to have at the end some political particular interest? Of course, because there's one more danger, and that's artificial intelligence. I think every publishing house today already uses it, of course, and every editor-in-chief or managing director already thinks about, can I work with less journalists and have the same output? And of course they do it because they have to look at their figures. So this is the dangerous thing. I talked to an organization, I forgot the name, I'm sorry. They say we need the boots on the ground, we need the journalists on the ground, we need a reporter. That's what I think is the greatest job anyway, to be a reporter, go around and tell the things you've seen, tell the stories, analyze things, check, recheck, double check everything we learned. That's what we learned, and that is, as I know, it is so important for our democracy. And I know it also from people who come from a former communist country, because they listen to our news, they listen to Radio Free Europe and so on. So we know how important good media is. So we need both. I think we have to support it, and I cannot tell you a clear plan. I know we have to do it. We have to tax. We have to see, advertisement that goes to European medium is the one thing. If it goes to an American medium, there I would put a tax on. How we do that exactly, also I cannot say, but we know that it's necessary, and we know also to support European media, because otherwise, as I said, then democracy would be lost, and the Americans should understand it. Because Thomas Jefferson, third president of the United States, he once said, if you ask me to live in a country with media and no government, or government and no media, I would take the first. So media is probably more important than government.
But that was all time, because today one of the problems is that we are losing also audience. Yes. So do you think that even media, newsrooms have to redefine themselves, because we obviously lost the kind of connection with audience you had in 80s, for example?
Yeah, that's right. Austrian television, in the 80s we had 8 million inhabitants, and in my show in the 90s even sometimes had 1 million viewers in the evening. You cannot imagine that anymore. But the principle is the same. What do we have in the media now, in the social media? We have influencers. What were the anchormen before? They were influencers. So I think the media, or let's say it's self-critical, is always the best. We were too slow. You know, when I was an NTV in Germany, we built up, of course, the internet and the website. We did it in Korea when I was in Vienna, but I admit it was too slow. We didn't do it with enough engagement, probably, because we thought it's a television, it's newspaper. No, it's not television and newspaper. It's the person, and I think every good journalist should be also an influencer, and we have to learn from them. The journalists have to learn. I tell you my story, and I can prove that the story is right, because then people will realize, okay, that's a real story. It's not AI, you know. It's not an influencer just about beautiful clothes or beautiful lips or whatever, but it's about the facts, and the facts will be more important for people, and they will understand it. So we don't give up. Not the journalists, not the politicians, but sit together and say, what can we do for our democracy? I think that's at the end. That's the point.
But on the other side, we have trends of populist parties all around Europe, or populist approach from Austria, Germany, all ex-Eastern countries, or especially Eastern countries. What do you see from this success of populists, mostly right-wing populists?
Again, if I think about Austria, I have to admit they started with their own TV station, you know, the right-wing party, when the others didn't even think about it. You know, when I was young, the Austrian parties had their own newspapers, and they couldn't survive because at the end nobody wanted to read from a political party. And that was even my understanding. And then there comes this right-wing party, and they built up their own TV station, and it worked. It worked for their people. They wanted to talk. You know, not everybody listens to it, but their people listen to it. So that's the point. We have to think what are the new possibilities so we can learn from them. We cannot learn from them as far as populism is concerned. You know, if you think about Marine Le Pen, you know, if I have to steal money first to be popular, I will not do it, okay? Because that's not my way of being a politician. For her, it works. So for them, it's different. There are different rules. Why? I think you also can analyze that. At least two reasons. First of all, they are very good talking against the system, against the elites, and many people don't feel so well anymore. You know, as I said, when I was a kid, every parent would say, "My kids will have a better life." Today, you can't say it anymore. I mean, we do have a way better life than I was young, but it's difficult. And the other thing is, and in my book I talked to a psychiatrist about it, very often those right-wing populists, they shout at the people, you know, they shout and they whatever. And I say, why do people accept to be shouted at? And then he said, you know, because people think, okay, he finally can say what I cannot, and he finds the right words for it. So they probably are closer to their voters as we are. Let's think about that as well. So that's my point of looking at it right now. Where are the mistakes we made? Doesn't make sense to always finger point or they made mistakes. Or, of course, many things they're doing I really detest. But let's finger point at us. Where did we do the wrong thing? Where didn't we do enough? Where didn't we explain well enough? And of course, that's one more thing. We have to explain it in an easier way. And one more thing, like if I think about Austria, many people are in favor of the European Union. If you explain it to them, they say, of course, better export, open borders, that's good for us, you know, and we sell our things and tourists are coming. But that's all here. We have to be more here. You know, Europe is so great because there is no war possible anymore. You know, a war between Austria, Slovenia, Croatia, Germany, France, impossible. Impossible. We might fight about this or that. There is no war possible anymore. And it happened all the time in Europe. That's not possible anymore. Young people can get around, study here, learn a language there, feel better here. You know, so many more possibilities. But you have to feel it, not only talk about it.
But now you just spoke about Austrian experience. But what about German experience? You were covering Germany for a long, long time. How do you explain the situation with AfD?
That's really difficult because, you know, when I was in East Germany in the 1980s, it was a cruel, terrible dictatorship. I talked to a lot of people who could not leave the country. I talked to people who didn't dare to say anything. They watched Western television. When I went to Leipzig, you know, twice a year they had a fair there. And you could see, I always tried to arrive earlier to see the city. Poor city. You would go, there was a joke going on, in this shop you don't get meat. on the other way, you don't get fish, because, people didn't have enough, but you got vodka everywhere. People said, okay, let's get drunk, at least something. So it was terrible, and people know it. The older people know it, but some of them today say, it wasn't so bad. There were people organizing everything, and we nation and we Germans, and now the bad French and the bad Polish. They are working with nationalism, and that's really dangerous, because nationalism again goes to the heart. So if you're good enough to work with nationalism, you get the hearts of the people, and it's so difficult to explain that nationalism is dangerous. That's why always, whenever I'm in Vienna and I do a guided tour in the Austrian parliament, we had a European parliament in Vienna until 1918. What destroyed the European parliament? The old Reichsrat, nationalism, because some thought they were better than the others, which nobody is better than the other one, and no nation is better than the other one. But people didn't understand it, and nationalism worked, and that for me is the biggest danger at all.
But in German situation, should we be afraid of autumn elections and of the scenario in which in some states CDU will be maybe tempted to work with AfD, and it would be then final step for those populists toward power?
To be afraid is not enough, so we have to do something. And of course, a government, and Mr. Merz is old enough to see where he made mistakes and the others make mistakes. So the first job is for the government to do a better job. I think this is really important, and in many fields they are failing. So again, it doesn't make sense to finger point to the others. Let's look what we did wrong. And the second thing is, when I look in Austria, the right-wing party, they were not always so right-wing as they are today. In the 80s, they tried to be a little liberal. But every time the right-wing party was in government, it ended in chaos or with corruption. Last time, 2019, the Ibiza scandal, we know it, was chaos and corruption. So that's also something we have to explain to people. It's probably not enough, but to say, let's work them, and then people will understand that they are wrong, and that's not enough. We have to explain before that. And here you can explain it in the European Parliament. Whenever we voted, for instance, yesterday about social system. So when I go to Croatia or you go to Austria, you can live in another country, you can take your social rights with you. The Austrian right-wing party voted against it, so against the people. So we have to say it every day. Or today we voted on Ukraine and about the real Russian disinformation. Everybody knows that there's disinformation from Russia. FPÖ, the right-wing party, said, no, that's no problem. So you see, do you want to live in Putin empire? Do you want to live in Russia? No. People are fleeing Russia. They go to the Balkan countries, by the way, because they know the language, and many people speak Russian. I know it from Belgrade. A lot of Russians living there. Young people don't want to go to the army. So nobody wants to live in Russia. People are fleeing. We have to be more clear. I think that's also, we are too noble sometimes. We have to explain really what the situation is, and probably also be louder.
Mr. Brandtstätter, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much.
Hvala i vama, dragi gledatelji. Bile su ovo Ideje.hr iz Strasbourga.